Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Thanks, Kimberly. Okay, Fast Leader Legion. Today, you get an opportunity to share one of my first husband and wife tandem. Previously, I had Carol Sharicz on the show, but now I get Carol's better half, Carol Sharicz, to interview today. Carol was born in Dorchester, Massachusetts, a very working class kind of community, and if you ever met anyone from Dorchester to this day, the very first question they will ask is, what parish are you from? So far, Carol has worked in 13 countries, including Australia, Europe, Hong Kong, India, Japan, the former Soviet Union countries, and Russia. Because of these experiences, Carol has developed a real appreciation and fascination with other cultures and interacting with people from around the world. Many of these experiences have resulted in lifelong friendships, too. Carol worked at Motorola at the beginning of her career and was recruited to design a master's program at Suffolk University in Boston, where she was a tenured professor. Currently, she is a professor at UMass Boston in Dorchester, where she feels like she has come home to her roots. She's also an author and a consultant to many different kinds of organizations, healthcare, nonprofit, educational, and for-profit, focusing on leadership, emotional intelligence, and systems thinking. She is the author of a systems thinking book entitled The Big Picture, a system thinking story for managers that presents systems thinking in a very straightforward language and with practical examples. Carol has also two twin daughters. When they were born, were 3 months early and only weighed 2 pounds. This is one of the life-changing experiences for Carol, and in and of itself confirmed her belief in miracles. Two adventures that Carol has particularly enjoyed was walking across Europe with her daughters and riding her bicycle 1,000 miles through Scandinavia. Her legacy is to have been known as a kind person. Even to this day, her mother, who will be 84 in a couple weeks as at the taping of this show, still mentions how important it is to be kind to others. Carol Ann Sharicz, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Yes, I am, Jim. Thank you.
Glad to have you. Okay, so I've given our guests a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you better?
Absolutely. My current passion, Jim, is I absolutely love being with people. I'm a teacher, like you had mentioned. I'm a professor at UMass Boston. And I found that has been a real thread in my life. I knew it when I was in first grade, when I went to parochial school in Dorchester. When the nuns asked me what I wanted to be, I wanted to be a teacher. And to this day, I still hear from a lot of my students. And to me, that's very heartwarming because you feel like you're making a difference.
You know, I often find how, as even us being our own students, that we always have that one teacher, or maybe even a couple teachers that have made such an impact on our lives. And those teachers are, like you said, very touched when some of those students come back and share with them how much of an impact they made on their lives. Is there one particular student story that you can recall that really has made an impact on you? Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. And Jim, it's actually funny you should be asking me this question because as we're taping this on Friday, I literally just got an email 2 days ago on Wednesday from a former student of mine at Suffolk University. And he is a training and development manager at a insurance company in Boston. And he said to me that he, to this day, when he does his training with his classes, he mentions me because of what an inspiration I was. But he mentioned something that was kind of took me by surprise. He said, in addition to how you teach, Carol, which was memorable, but you always made a connection with your students. And he says, in case in point, he says, here we are. Who hears from their professor or who is able to talk to their professor, 10 years later. And I literally, Jim, just got that 2 days ago. So to me, that was, it made my day.
Well, I can only imagine, especially when I didn't even know that. So it just happened to,
I know.
It's pretty interesting that it was such a coincidence. But I would dare to say that, especially as we age and as all of our, people who we mentor and we get the opportunity to help, with their advancement and development, as they get older, they realize those things too. So I would bet that you're going to get a heck of a lot more of those emails in the future. And hopefully the show will help actually, make that more visible as well. So people will reach out to you.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
So, there are ways that, we become inspired as individuals to help others. And as you know, we focus on leadership quotes at the Fast Leader Show because there's just so much depth and meaning to those. I mean, is there a quote or two that kind of really, has special meaning for you that you can share with us?
Yes, there's one that came from a book, and even my children would tell you this, Jim, The Little Prince. And it was the fox who said, "It's only with the heart that one can see clearly. What's essential is invisible to the eye." And that really has always resonated with me, because I think life is what's more of the invisible. And how do we pay attention to that?
So for you, we talked in previously about some of the work that you've been doing, and it was even mentioned in your bio in regards to system thinking and emotional intelligence. And, have you kind of created your own personal system to actually get to that better understanding and clarity and the things that, aren't, so clear and spoken?
Again, a great question. And my answer is, I think it's a work in progress. I don't think we ever really arrive, but when we're aware of it, I think for me, I'm taking the time to pay attention more, to observe more, and to really listen. I know my daughters will say that I'm a good listener, but I think even more so now, I'm really taking the time and trying not to be distracted. Sometimes when I'm really working, I might say to myself, I don't want to, I want to focus on my work, but I have to let that go and just say, somebody just came into my office. I really need to pay attention. And so sometimes it's a reminder to myself to do that, but I feel like it helps a lot to really focus on that other person.
You bring up a really good point in regards to active listening, which is one of the competencies associated with emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I've even had to be more mindful to tell folks that, I want to give you full attention and want to be able to listen, to you and be able to, respond to you appropriately. And I can't do that right now because I am distracted, or I need to put this away, or I need to finish this, and just hold on a moment. And initially that may seem rude, but I know for me, it's allowed me to do just that, focus better.
And you bring up a good point too about, in a way, you didn't use the word boundary, but it's important for a leader to have that boundary to say, this is what I need right now, and still be aware of the needs of the other people.
Definitely. And like you say, it is a work in progress. Sometimes we can come to those conclusions a little bit faster. We have to go through our own life experiences and hopefully learn in the process. But at the Fast Leader Show, we also give people the opportunity to learn through the stories of others. Even myself, I'm an open book in a lot of the things. I share as much as I can so that hopefully somebody can be really helped and aided in getting over that hump faster. And so we talk about a lot of learnings. And so is there a story that you can share with us that helped you learn and get over the hump faster?
So I have actually two examples, Jim, and they both have the same theme to them. And so one was when I actually was in high school, and I had all my credits for my senior year. So I had this idea early one morning to talk to my guidance counselor to see if I could go to high school in the morning and college in the afternoon. And he kind of thought for a second and he said, well, that's never been done, Carol. And I said, well, could you ask? And he did, to his credit, which was great. And he came back and he said, Carol, they'll let you go. So I went to high school in the morning and college in the afternoon. And I had another example very similar to that, where this happened when I was a new professor, Jim. And myself and a colleague were tasked with inviting a guest speaker for our annual conference at the college. And this was a really big deal. And I came up with this idea of inviting Keith Lockhart, who's the Boston Pops conductor. In fact, he just started the year after I did it at this university. And my senior leadership at the team said, you're inviting him? He's not going to come. Who do you think you are in thinking of a person like that? And I said, well, you never know until you ask. So I sent out the invitation. His administrative team got it, and he accepted. So he came to the university and gave a wonderful presentation. But what I learned from both of those examples is that, you have these ideas and you want to bring them forward. And I'm not saying every idea has to be accepted. I understand that. But when I think a person really believes in something, it's worth pursuing it and not being stopped at that no. It's like, what can you lose if you take that risk?
I think even reading your bio and as you tell those stories and using that word risk, I think that's, really the underlying theme here is that you weren't afraid, to approach folks and take those risks. And because, like you said, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, the worst thing that could be happening would be that no response, and you're never going to get that unless you take that first leap or that first step. So, I mean, obviously you've been doing that at a very early age, because I mean, you talked about doing it at high school and things like that. But when there was a time where you got some resistance, how did you get over that hump?
Yeah, and I definitely got resistance. And I think that those instances, like I said, I really understand too within myself that everybody has ideas and not every idea is going to be accepted. But when I did get that resistance, I did take a step back and reevaluated it for myself to say, okay, why was this person not as excited as I was? What else is going on? What's the bigger context? And of course, that's very systems thinking, like to look at that bigger context. So it made me pause, which I think is always healthy too.
So I could absolutely see that, when you have gotten resistance and you've taken that step back and you've looked at that bigger picture, that system, that you've often gone back and tried to make yet another attempt. So have you found something that seems to work better than not in regards to going back and then finally getting, that acceptance or that approval?
Absolutely, Jim. I think the one thing that I learned is that, again, I might have all these great ideas and I get excited about my ideas. Who doesn't, right? But I really had to look at it from the other person's perspective. What are their motivations? What are they looking for in the organization? And so it wasn't just about me. It's taking, again, that other perspective as important as mine and seeing what we could work with.
I think that also is a really important point. I recently was introduced to a particular study that was completed talking about how do you actually diffuse a heated situation? How do you essentially bring yourself back down from that, that box that you may be on? And because I know for me, sometimes when I get, really excited and frustrated about something, it's, hard to dial it back down. And they found that one particular method isn't necessarily putting yourself in those environments, in the other person's perspective or point of view, but it's to pretend like you're a fly on the wall, actually observing the interaction in the situation. And they said that gives people a better perspective about what's going on and helps them back down better and then maybe take a different approach. And I thought that was fascinating.
I do too.
So when you think about the work that you're doing now, and I know we've talked about this earlier from the teaching piece, the author piece, and speaking and your volunteer work, what is one thing that's currently driving you now that just gives you a lot of energy and passion?
The one huge thing right now, Jim, is I was on a strategic planning committee for a impoverished community here in Massachusetts. And we were tasked we got a small grant to help design a new academy and it was called the Academy for Innovators and Entrepreneurs. It was targeted for kids 9th grade to 12th who might be on the verge of dropping out of school. And could we really design a new school, different curriculum, more on an international baccalaureate kind of curriculum, which would really encompass having them be more reflective, critical thinkers, but a lot of the key competencies that are needed now in the 21st century. And to me, that project had to be one of the best projects I have ever worked on. And we really want to see this continue to actually become an actual academy, because I think it could really make a difference in these young children's lives and for the economy and the local community too.
Now, I would say that we know education has gotten some very, very bad press. It's gotten some very, I guess, heated discussion and debate in regards to a lot of the things that's trying to be instituted. And it sounds like you're, having some success with the program that you're doing. And so please share that with us so that other people can maybe get exposed to it that have the passion for, reengineering education. What's the name of the organization?
The actual school system is down in Cape Cod, the Wareham Public Schools. And like I said, it was a planning committee that we were part of. So just the we're just laying the foundation. But to me, that's true with any project. You have to lay that foundation. And to me, it was also, I was brought in because of my systems lens. We were working with a lot of different stakeholders, if you will, from the superintendent of the schools down there to the school committee. A member was represented. We brought students in to hear their voices of what kind of school could they imagine for their future. We had a parent on the committee, in addition to the principal of the high school. So to me, that's what it's about when you're really looking at real systemic issues. Like you said, Jim, we do have a lot of issues, whether it's education or economic or what have you. And the more we can bring affected people together to really craft something for where we are now, where we want to be in the future, where we need to be in the future, that's exciting.
So if you were to think about, the story that you should share, stories you had shared earlier about, being bold, about, stepping back and looking at the big picture lens, bringing all these different constituents together, through this work that you're doing and this planning committee on this education program. I mean, all of those things, if you had a piece of advice that you would give to our Fast Leader Legion, what would it be?
To me, how I think about this work is, and what to say to everybody is what's really fueling you? What is your passion? And I know other people in your other podcasts had mentioned that too. And I don't want that to sound like a trite expression. It really is. If people could really feel something in their heart, and it doesn't have to be education, my example that I gave, it could be anything. It's go for it. And it's not going to be easy. But to me, I think that it's such a deep motivation, and it's so satisfying. It's almost indescribable.
Yeah, that intrinsic drive is an important piece, and we definitely have to be able to find it and then fuel it. All right, now it's time for the rapid pace part of our show, and that's the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Carol, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Carol Sharicz, are you ready to hoe down?
You bet I am, Jim.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Not knowing what my next medium is as far as getting my new ideas out there. Should I write another book, do blogs? That's what is really my challenge right now.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Be yourself. It really is. It came from my dad. It's come from other people, even to this day. And sometimes I say that to myself, just be yourself, Carol.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anybody, but I read every day. And that helps me think about what is needed in my classes or on a project.
What do you feel is one of your best resources that helps you lead in business or life?
I really go to major books, whether they be current books. There's one that was written by a real preeminent person, Lee Kuan Yew. He actually just died this past year, but he wrote a book on he's called The Grand Master. And even presidents in the United States have actually consulted with him, but he has insights on China, the US, and the world. And to me, he's had some very provocative thoughts in his book about it all being about discipline. Are we disciplined in our action, disciplined in our thought? And I think that's a huge message too.
Oh, that's for sure. Well, we're going to put a link to that book and several other resources on our show notes page, which you'll be able to find at fastleader.net/Carol Sharicz. Okay, Carol, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you've been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have back with you. But you know what? You can't take everything. You can only take one piece of knowledge or skill back with you. What would you take back and why?
I would love to have had a trusted advisor when I was 25. Somebody that I could really go to and say, can I bounce these ideas off of you? And just share my thinking rather than always being working it out myself. I think that would have been very beneficial in a lot of instances.
And for me, when I haven't been able to find that person in moments of time, sometimes being that person for someone else often opens that door.
Absolutely. Good point, Jim.
Carol, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader listeners how they can connect with you?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. I am also on Twitter. And those are probably the best ways to get in touch with me, in addition to my email, of course, which is csharicz@comcast.net.
Carol, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.